The comparison just puts us constantly in a place of noticing our limitations against someone else who doesn't have. But we live at such a surface level where we don't name our limits, and so we can't grieve them. And thus they have a secret power over us, maybe not secret, but a hidden power over us, where we are resentful and grumpy and constantly trying to hurdle this fence line that God has given us because we've never really named the limit. We just keep working against it.
Welcome to the show today. You're in the right place. We are in our Living Well series, talking about all aspects of living well, staying emotionally healthy, staying spiritually healthy, no matter what craziness the world serves up. Today, Sarah Hagerty is joining us to talk about the unexpected gift of limitations. Now, you know me. Enneagram 7, more is always better. Give me every ice cream flavor and every roller coaster known to mankind. I get it. But I feel this topic, this gift of our limitations, so deeply because it is how God develops us so often and how He points us to where He wants us to focus in life. Sarah is absolutely brilliant, and you're going to love her, and you're going to love this conversation. And if you're like me going, I don't know if naturally I want to embrace my limitations, let's see what this conversation spurs in you. I think it's pretty interesting. Now, after we talk with Sarah, it's time for coaching. Today, I'm giving you how to deal with people who are toxic. Now, maybe this person is a colleague or a mom in the PTA, or she's your sister-in-law. Don't worry. I won't tell her we said that. I just want to give you some tips for how to manage the relationship and how to manage your interactions with that person to help you not be drained by them and to limit the amount of damage that they can do. Now, you're not a victim of people who are toxic. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to manage it. We're going to dive into it together. And also, I've said it before, I'll say it again, not everyone is toxic to everyone, but some people are toxic to us. Can someone be a great person and go do wonderful things in the world and still be toxic to us? Yes, we'll dive into that too. Now, for the final segment of the show today, I'm bringing you my new favorite tea and the under eye cream that I'm loving right now. And I have two fun things to share with you this week. Now, Called Creatives is hosting another social media challenge. This is so much fun. So basically, you sign up and we give you a prompt every day of 3 different options of something to post on social media. It takes away that feeling of, what am I going to post today? And one of the fun things is we use a specific hashtag so everyone can find each other and comment and follow each other. It's super fun, and you are invited. You don't need to be a member of Called Creatives to join. Just go to calledcreatives.com and you can sign up. It's all free. It's going to be fun to connect with you. I hope you join in. It'll be a lot of fun. Now, the other thing I want to remind you about is that my internship is open for a few new team members. Now, my internship is where I get to come alongside women and give them training and mentoring and teach them not only to lean into their goals and calling, but I give them the behind-the-scenes insider info that is my hard-won wisdom from 15 years in the business of balancing being a businesswoman and a mom and a wife. It's an investment from me into the team members. I wanted to share a testimonial from someone who's been on the team for 2 years now. Her name's Heather. She said, without this program, I never would have gained the tools that I needed to be successful in my field. This program has allowed me to see behind the curtain, so to speak, and to learn from someone who has been where I want to go. The coaching I have received has enabled me to advance further than I ever could have on my own. My favorite thing about the internship is the community it provides. It can be difficult for family and local friends to relate to the work I do and my goals and my dreams. But through the internship, I've not only found ladies who understand, but who provide support and service cheerleaders. I love that. That is my heart behind the internship. So if you're interested, if you want to learn more, go to allieworthington.com and you will see a link at the top of the page, but the direct link is allieworthington.com/interns. And of course, on Instagram, you can use the link in bio and get to the page that way. Okay, now without further ado, here's my friend Sarah. Sarah, it is about time that I have you on my podcast. It was 10 years ago, I remember seeing one of the best book covers I have ever seen with your first book. This is book number 4. Like, you're a
Thanks,
prolific writer. You we were talking before about, to write books, you got to live a lot of life. And I
Yes.
always have this thought of, I
Let the
don't know
reader
what else
understand.
there is to say. Is there anything else to say, Lord? I
That's
don't
right.
know. But I love this topic of limitations that you're writing about and living within them. I know as an author, we never decide on a book topic without either going through something big or God's about to take us through something big and we're going to wrestle through it while we write. What did that look like for you?
Well, I think for me, it's been a slow drag on my limitations. I think there's some things that just hang out in the backdrop of your life and you don't really name until they've been there long enough that you go, huh.
Yeah.
So for me, in my 20s, I struggled with a long 10 years, over 10 years of infertility. And so just really was very acquainted with watching my friends pass through certain rites of passage and just being stuck. But I wouldn't have named that a limitation. It wasn't until I had a couple more iterations of, I want my life to look a certain way and I just can't get there. And I feel like I'm working around and over and through and I'm still stuck, that I started to go, oh, my limitations have a purpose. And this wasn't just one season. This actually is over a period of time. God is using the things that I resent to make me.
So good. Can you give me some examples of stories that you've used in the book, or women that you've talked to with their limitations and what they've realized about life and what God's teaching them based on the limitations that God's allowed them to have?
I mean, I think for me, practically, I had all those years of infertility. So there was that stretch of watching my friends have their babies first, second, third birthdays, and I'm
What was
still
that
waiting.
like?
Oh, the ache of, I think there is an acute ache that we feel when we watch others experience what we can't have. In some ways, I think our limitations are only exacerbated in 2024 when we can look at our neighbor, even when we're actually not looking at our neighbor. We have access on our phone to see what our friend from college is doing. We have access to see what our cousin is doing, what that long lost childhood friend is doing. And so comparison just puts us constantly in a place of noticing our limitations against someone else who doesn't have them. So my infertility was the first time that I saw that. But I would also say, here on the flip side of it, I'm in my 40s and I had a very surprise pregnancy at 42. So the flip side is that I have 7 children. And so gave all the baby stuff away, this is the time I'm going to focus on my writing and just my big kids and the teenage years. And then all of a sudden I find out I'm pregnant and I'm going, I already thought I was drowning with 6 kids. Here I'm having a 7th and I'm old. And really going, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this season of life, which I thought was really the launching kids season, and with a baby. And so having to walk through, again, I'm watching my peers launch their kids and I'm launching mine. And I'm also bringing a baby along. And so in some ways, I think I've gotten to see both ends of that. But then there's a real, I didn't write about this in the book, but right after I turned in my manuscript, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And so I did write about sickness in the book because I'd experienced just month after month after month of sickness, which I now understand to be my Lyme. But I think our reality is we feel our limitations in our physical bodies. We feel them in what we are given or what we're not given. We feel it in our careers when we watch people advance and we feel stuck. We feel it in our finances when somebody's taking the trip to Europe and we're going, I'm still watching the budget. I mean, I think there's all different flavors that women experience, but the reality is every day we wake up to our limitations. We just do.
Right. And I think that for limitations, we don't often put language to it and understand properly that sometimes with our limitations that God has allowed us to have, there's a grieving process still. And
Absolutely.
I had never really wrapped my own brain around my own family limitations until I was writing Remaining You While Raising Them. And I talked about there are things for my family that I would want, but I can't have them. Like, I would love to have the house where we had big parties and everyone from church came over. But I have a husband with a chronic illness. I have a son with terrible migraine disease. And then I have another son with Asperger's, and that he would hate that, right? And so I've had to go like, this isn't my life. There are some things in my life I want, but it's not the life that's going to work. Now, maybe years down the road, I am the person that's hosting big parties, but this is the limitation that's on me. And so I'm talking about that in the book with the context of checking in with myself and figuring out what do I need and how do I still support myself with what I need to make me happy and to make me feel content as a mom, but recognizing we all have limitations, whether it's caused by illness or financial difficulties or, just the trauma of daily life sometimes. Mm-hmm. We all have limitations. And we, like you mentioned on social media, we can see what someone else is doing in an area where we're limited. And we'll see the videos and the pictures and the parties and everything else. But there is no way that person doesn't have their own slew of limitations that we don't
absolutely.
have. They're just not talking about it on Instagram.
Right. Or if they are, we're not necessarily identifying with them because we're going, they have what I don't want. I mean, it's like my 7-acre lot, somebody wants that because they want to live out in the country, and I'm dreaming about the postage stamp piece of property that takes 30 minutes to mow. There really is that. Like, you dream about my life, I dream about yours. I think of friends who would love to be in a position to write books, and yet I look at their lives and think of, oh, there's such an ease to their family life because they don't have some of the challenges that we have. I mean, we just are, but what you said is really true. We actually don't often name our limitations. So there's an ache underneath our limits that needs to be grieved with God, but we live at such a surface level where we don't name our limits, and so we can't grieve them. And thus they have a secret power over us, maybe not secret, but a hidden power over us where we are resentful and grumpy and constantly trying to hurdle this fence line that God has given us because we've never really named the limit. We just keep working against it.
Such a great point. And then we wonder, why did I snap my husband's head off? And why am I yelling at the kids?
Why am I eating chocolate cake at midnight?
Yeah. Why do I want to go up to my roof and use my laptop like a Frisbee? Because
that's right.
There's stuff I need to deal with. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely
right. You're right. It's so important for us to identify it and to grieve it so we can get past it, because stuffing it down isn't going to work. We'll just end up miserable and taking out our stress on other people. I think that for women especially, there could be a bit of guilt with identifying a disappointment about a limitation. I had guilt writing even that small couple paragraphs in my book, because a good mom isn't going to be sad over the way something is. You know what I mean? I mean, there's all that pressure.
Absolutely.
But we need to embrace the fact that we're human and we have feelings. And of course, we're going to be disappointed by our limitations. Nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, I cannot wait to see how God is going to limit me today. Things I would love to do that he says no to, this is going to be great, right? I mean, it's just the way we operate.
Absolutely. And I think we don't, my best friend uses a term that we've all heard, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. And none of us actually want to name the paper cuts, but the reality is, for many of us, some of the biggest aches in our life is the accumulation of paper cuts. Yeah. And so they accumulate in our life. We don't name them. We react to them. We bite our husbands' heads off or our kids' heads off, or we're grumpy. And yet at the same time, I think there's something so beautiful about knowing that verse, God is near to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit. We think this is when you're at the end of your life or at the end of something massive. But could it be that there are little shards in our heart that cause the brokenness that actually draw in God's nearness? That if we could actually start to name them, we might experience him in the paper cut.
And I love the way you talk about the importance of paying attention to ourselves. It's another issue that I think women do tend to struggle with. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we have. So it's interesting because I think researchers will say we have 6,000 thoughts in a day. So it's a lot of real estate, 6,000. And I think we are very prone to move our schedules. Like if something's pressing, we move our schedules, we shift our priorities, but we oftentimes don't think about how much real estate is up here and how much if I am, if I got a lot going on up here, my ability to pay attention to myself and to be present is naturally limited. My mind's here. I'm supercomputing up here. There's something significant about starting to notice ourselves, to notice our thoughts, to notice what's happening in here, to notice when I'm biting my nails or I'm reaching in the fridge or I'm reaching for my phone, what happened before that? What were the 3 hours like before that? Was it not just like slap my hand, put your phone down, stop getting lost, or be present at your kid's birthday party? What if I took a couple steps back, a couple hours back and went, what conversations did I have? What email did I get? What text did I get? And noticing my responses. There's something really significant about noticing ourselves because then we actually have something we can bring to God. Sometimes I think we get stuck I'm just stuck and I don't feel him and I feel numb. Well, we do have data points that we can bring to him, but we have to notice them first. We got to notice what's going on in here, maybe even first.
That's so good. I mean, it comes back to the point that self-awareness is key because what we don't identify, we're not going to bring to him. What we don't identify, we're not going to get help for, or get counseling or change our behavior. I remember March of 2020 when everything shut down. My drug of choice, I guess, became doom scrolling. And I remember one day, it was like April, and my right thumb was sore. And I was like, oh, how have I injured my thumb? What has happened? And I was doom scrolling and numbing out on social media because I was so stressed of people are getting sick and businesses are getting shutting down. Oh, it seemed like the end of the world at March 2020. And my poor thumb, I was like, do I need to go to physical therapy for that? No, I just need to stop doom scrolling and find a way to deal with my anxiety. But you're right. I think for so many of us, the phone is what we go to when we want to numb out, when we're feeling anxious or feeling uncomfortable. But when you look at the research, there is never a time when someone picks up their phone and spends 15, 20 minutes or more on social media and feels better after than before they started. And that, for me, I started tracking and going, I don't know. I really like social media. Let me just track my moods and see. And my moods were always garbage after. So
it's so funny. I've done a very similar thing. I started to, it's really hard. I've got teenagers, so I have a weird hack that isn't necessarily one I can say would work for a lot of people. But, the times I would put my phone down, inevitably some kid's getting a flat tire. It was like clockwork. I put my phone away and it's like, Mom, I'm on the side of the road and I called you 5 times and Dad's in a meeting, So I actually got a second phone that is just my kid phone, my family phone. There's got to be a better way to do this, surely, than to add more technology. But for right now, that's what works. And I've got that on me all the time. But I've noticed that the times where I will go for longer than an hour without my computer phone, right? The one that holds everything. It's like I'm returning to a 1995 version of me that is at peace. It's really wild to see that when I don't have that constant access, my mind is at rest. And I think some of it's the comparison. I think some of it's the overtasking, which for me is compensating for my limits. I overtask and overproduce in order to compensate for the fact that I have a life that is very unproductive with this many kids. But when I can silence that, it's wild to see that my heart starts to come alive. I did a very similar experiment where I would start to put it away for longer stretches. And I was like, I like me. I like the me that's not always tasking.
Yeah, I think it's so good. For me, I didn't do second phone, but my Apple Watch.
That's exactly,
so then I
yes.
I can be because even on Do Not Disturb, all their messages will come through, and I can see if anything's wrong. They'll call me. But something to put it down. For me, I also learned social media depresses me when I am taking it in a visual medium. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Now, Twitter, even though I'm mostly reading on Twitter, or replying to people, it has always been like, it was my first love of social media. I love hanging out on there because it's text based. So any social media that's text based, that is a platform of ideas, that I actually really enjoy. But it's the flip of videos and the visuals that bring me down, to the point where I was
Absolutely.
walking across my kitchen recently, and the Lord, you know how the Lord will give you a word and he won't tell you all the details, but he illuminates in your mind exactly what he's talking about. And he said, "Why do you do things that trigger envy?" And I was like, oh,
And that's what that
that's
is.
about
Oh,
Instagram. And he wasn't saying like, you need to deal with your envy. And
oh,
he was
his
just like,
voice is
stop.
tender. Yeah.
Like, it'd be like, why do you keep lighting matches next to that dry field? Just lay off. So realizing, for me, it is a limitation that if if I'm anxious or if I'm bored, I will want to just scroll on a visual medium, and then I'll always feel worse afterwards. And
Absolutely.
realizing some people may not have that issue. They may spend an hour on TikTok and feel amazing about life.
I think that's maybe 1% of the population.
It's literally one of my teenagers, but I call him my Teflon kid because just poof,
Oh, so
everything
there he
bounces
is.
off of him. And I'm like,
I
if
think
I could
there
go through
maybe is
life,
that rare breed, yes. But
yeah,
I have people. I mean, I truly, and it really is the ones who are living what I'm not. Like if I could boil it down to what are the Instagram feeds that cause me to sink, and it's watching someone have what I can't. And there's a few things in my life that
yeah,
I am very distinctly fenced from, very distinctly on one side of the fence, and I want to be on the other, and the Lord has not allowed it. And
yeah,
when I see those people who are wonderful, beautiful people living in the fruit that they've been given, if I'm not aware of what's happening in my own heart, which is really kind of the key. If I'm not aware of
yeah,
what's happening in my own heart, I'm sunk, because here I am again standing on the other side of the fence line, resenting what I can't have instead of having actual dialogue with God about it.
yeah,
And social media
absolutely.
oftentimes is a siphoning off. I'm not having dialogue with God about social media. And so it
No,
seems
we
to
just
be
keep on
this.
scrolling to the next thing. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's this separate space where I'm not talking to him about it. Now, if I'm allowing him into the inner workings of my heart that are happening as I'm scrolling, then it's a little different.
yeah. But that's probably the teeniest percentage, or it is for me. So I'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
for me, if it's people I don't know, I just don't follow them. If it's people
Mm-hmm.
I
That's good.
genuinely know and like we have each other's phone number, we text, then I'll deal with
Mm-hmm.
the issues of my heart. When I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for them, but oh, I would love that. But, for so many people, and I was this way too, we're following hundreds of people that we don't know. And so just every day inundated with their best moments, it is really, really damaging to mental health. I bring it up often on the show, um, but it's an important thing to bring up because I think 5 years, 10 years from now, we're going to look back on this era and go, we didn't know what we were doing to ourselves,
We didn't
because
realize.
the natural limitations that God gave us to live in, and the blessings of our limitations, once we deal with them and bring them to the Lord and wrestle through it, we're not getting there.
Well, and our phone gives us access to things that we really wouldn't have access to in a day if we didn't have our phone. So in some
Yeah.
ways it's like it teaches us you can have the world. You can have the world outside your yard. And so we then start to approach our lives as if we can overcome everything. And I think there are some things God intends us to overcome. And I think there's
Yeah.
other things that he actually invites us to succumb to. They're about,
Yeah.
the psalmist says the boundary lines for me have fallen in pleasant places. Well, many of us actually don't believe that. And
Mm,
I think in many ways it's because we haven't gone, well, I don't like the boundary lines I have. Let's
yeah.
go on a journey, God, and talk about this.
Yeah, it's so good. Talk about, last question on this topic, the sigh of life.
Hmm. I think we as Christians skip steps. So I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to sermonize myself, you got to let it go, girl. You got to surrender, right? How many times have we done that? I mean, I preach to myself, you got to surrender,
Yeah.
let that go. And yet, if I look back on my life, I would say the places where I have surrendered have been a long process of naming my limitations, of grieving them and bringing them to God, of letting him sit with me in them, and then seeing what can happen as a result. I think the sigh of life is surrender, and it's a sigh, it comes after the grief of our limitations. You know, that baby that I told you about, that surprise baby that shocked all of us and I thought was going to sink us. I gave myself permission during the pregnancy, and I knew, I'm like, God, I know that you're going to redeem that. Right now I'm being honest about my emotions and I'm carrying this baby, but I lived in Psalm 23. I felt like it was the valley of the shadow of death. I mean, not that the pregnancy was the valley of the shadow of death, but we were also in the throes of just some pretty intense parenting. 4 of our 7 have significant childhood trauma. They were adopted. And so I let myself grieve, like, how am I going to do 7 kids? And I don't even think I can do 6 kids. And how have I been given this lot that I don't think I can be responsible for? And what I watched happen was, as I grieved, the sigh of life, which was surrender, came. It was passive. It wasn't me coaching myself to let it go, to let my dreams go, to let my expectations go, to be more free. It was like this byproduct that God brought as a result of me really giving grief its space. Grieving my limitations made me move from resenting them to actually going, oh, they are purposed.
I can't imagine a baby at 42. Were all of your children adopted up to that point? And then you have surprise baby, or how did it work?
We have 4 children that were adopted. And then after 13 years of infertility, I had a surprise pregnancy. And then I had 3 more surprise pregnancies. Only 3 that I've actually carried to term. So I have 7 kids. But 42 was still well beyond. I mean,
Were you so tired?
All the baby. I slept. I feel like I hibernated for the 9 months of my pregnancy. I was a whale,
you need an award. You need like a blue ribbon. Like, I remember my 5th pregnancy, walking around, and I was still early 30s. I had kids really young, but I remember going, "Oh, my body can't do this. Like this isn't. I can never do this again. This won't work." I can't imagine how tired I would have been 10 years later. So
I was like, I was 80. I feel like I spent a year being 80. That's what it was. A year of my life, I was 80 early.
Well, you look amazing for 85 or whatever you are now. Okay, I have fun questions for you. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Enneagram number.
Oh, well, am I allowed to tell you to guess? No, you probably can't guess in 20 minutes.
But one of my friends, Steph, if you're listening.
We're not supposed to guess.
Steph told me, you got to stop guessing because you're terrible at this. That's literally what she told me. I am going to say a 4 or a 9.
I am a 4. I'm a 4 to the 4th degree. God bless every friend of 4s, every spouse of 4s, every child of 4s.
I think 4s make the best writers. You feel so deeply, you think things.
Yes, when I read others' writings, oftentimes I'm like, oh, they're 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 4s are deep wells. But
some of my dearest friends are 7. You're a 7, aren't you?
I'm a 7.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 4s and 7s are fun, interesting combinations. Because you got to get to a sweet spot of like, my friend who's a 7, I'm like, okay, yes, we're going to go paddleboarding. Okay, we just will. But can I cry while we're out there?
Can we have a deep conversation while we're having fun? No, I love it. I think that's great. And Steph, if you're listening, I am very good at guessing Enneagram numbers. There you go. I got it. Okay, what about a song that you have on repeat lately?
Oh, okay. Ben Rector's Heroes. Do you listen to Ben Rector?
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to say that here, but man, his lyrics, I think he might be a 4. I'll tell your friend Steph that, I'm guessing.
Well, no, I mean, we're batting 1,000, so I feel like it's very safe to talk about what he is. Yeah, Ben Rector is fantastic. Great choice. Let's see, movie or TV show? Or both? Like you have all this extra time.
Well, recently my husband and I watched The Hidden Life. Have you
Oh,
seen
I've
that?
never
It's a
heard of it.
3-hour
No.
movie about, I'm a four, right? So I love
Mm-hmm.
stuff about World War II. And it is about an Austrian who resisted the army in World War II. It's a true story.
Oh.
And it is powerful. It is so sad. It's kind of like if you know you're going to cry a river or you have a moody night. But and the filming, it is just, the movie itself is beautiful. The Hidden
I
Life.
saw the trailer for it in the movie theater and I wanted to see it. It was in movie theaters last year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
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 And
It
I
is.
remember
It's
going, oh, that looks amazing. Okay. I'm
It
glad to
was
hear it was
amazing.
good.
Yeah. Go watch it
Okay. This
with your
seven's going to
friends
go
who are
watch it.
fours.
We're
Go
going
to
to
an
feel a
amusement
lot of
park
stuff.
afterward.
Okay. We'll do it. Yeah. Let's watch this and cry. And then we'll have some ice cream and ride a roller coaster. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. We can do that. What about a product that you've recommended to other people that they would enjoy?
Okay, so tallow. You know about
Okay,
tallow?
I keep hearing about tallow. Give me the scoop. I haven't
So this is the
even
one you need to
invested
get.
it. Okay.
So tallow's great for those of us who had babies at 42. It's supposed to be really great for your skin. It's awesome moisturizer, but I've used it and I constantly feel like I just went to the butcher because it's like from
Well, does it
cows, right?
smell like meat?
Well, it does, except Tubes& Co. makes a tallow, a vanilla tallow balm that I'm not kidding is worth it's not cheap, but it is worth
Okay.
it because it smells wonderful. You don't smell an ounce of beef. You don't feel like you're wearing tacos.
Okay, I'm down for that. Now, I'm a like Aquaphor girl, like Vaseline Aquaphor my whole life, so
Yep.
I'm not afraid of putting some crazy stuff on my skin.
That is crazy
Especially
stuff. And you know what? If you've done
okay.
Aquaphor, this is going to feel 1,000 times better.
Sometimes my husband will kiss me goodnight and he'll be like, "Ooh, you're a little
That's
sticky."
right. I recently have been wearing frownies, which I hate to admit. Maybe you can edit this
They're a
out, but my
thing.
husband at
Are they
night is,
working for you?
oh, they're not. Don't look closely. You can tell they're not.
Hmm.
But it's only
If
been like a
somebody
month.
would tell me they worked, I would be down.
Well,
Yeah, I
no,
bet
so
your
I
husband
have had
finds that really sexy.
he finds it so sexy. I'm like, babe, this is life in our later years. Let's pull out those vows because it wasn't this what you said yes to? But I will
Hmm.
tell you, a dear friend of mine, it worked for her, and she was enough to make me buy them and stick with them. So
Okay. Okay, we're going to put that as a recommendation. We'll have a little asterisk. Like we don't know for sure, but Sarah's friend
it's a
swears by
question
them.
mark. Yeah, that's right.
Well, awesome. Tell everybody where they can find you and tell everyone why they need this book.
Sarah Hagerty writes. I'm on Instagram. I also am on Substack.
Mm.
It's called Soar. You can find me there. I feel like we all are coming to a place in our lives, whether it's because it's our age or really just it's 2024. The last 4 years have been incredibly taxing, where there's nobody in my world who's not feeling the ache of their limits.
Yeah.
And so this book is really a way out and through that doesn't mean actually overcoming your limits, but getting real comfortable with them and finding a lot of joy right there inside your yard.
That's so good. Thank you. This book is amazing. You're a brilliant writer, so of course you're a four. Thank you for joining us, and I hope everybody loves the book. It's such an important topic that nobody ever talks about, but you handled it with care and grace and nuance, and I appreciate that about you, so thank you. Isn't Sarah great? I love her. I told you this was a special one. Of course, I'm giving away copies of Sarah's book. Just take a screenshot of the podcast while you're listening, share it on social media, tag us, and you will be entered to win a book. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I still want you to share it, but what I would love is make sure that you like it, make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you leave a comment. Every comment on YouTube will be entered to win a book. Okay, let's move on to the coaching segment of the show. I mentioned it at the top of the show. I'll tell you now, I said it in Remaining You While Raising Them. Sometimes people are toxic for us, but it doesn't mean that people are bad people. It just means that they're toxic for us. We're going to run across people who are toxic for us, who kind of stand in the way of what we know God's calling in our life is. People who mean us harm, people who are not good for us, people who are abusive. When we do run across these people, we need a game plan. So here's how to deal with toxic people. Think about 3 things with interactions with them. Keep your interactions short, upbeat, and surface level. Seriously, short, upbeat, and surface level. When you think about a short interaction, don't allow them to suck up all your time or your mental or emotional energy. You want to avoid drama with them. You want brief interactions that will cut down the chances for conflict. You want to keep things smooth, right? What this does is it will limit the negative influence they have in your life. Less exposure to you means less impact on your mood and your outlook. Second thing, keep your interactions with them upbeat. Stay positive so you don't give them any place where they can perceive that they can attack you, right? Perceived weakness is where toxic people go in for the kill. It's a way to control what you can. You can control your attitude and your reactions. It'll keep you strong and not let their negativity bring you down. When you keep things positive, think of it as a way of putting your positivity up like a shield, where someone comes at you and they want to gossip about other people. You're just positive and friendly and you got your shield up and you're not going to be sucked into the crazy. Or they want to complain about the boss and put you in a bad situation where you don't want to be complaining about the boss. You get to be positive, and that's your shield where you're keeping them from coming at you and bringing their negativity to you. See? And third thing is keep things surface level when you're dealing with them. You want to keep things superficial because it will protect your heart and your mind. It's another shield against their negativity. It'll help you stay peaceful and it'll help you stay safe. Don't get into deep conversations with people who are toxic for you. Keep it superficial, keep it positive, keep it short. That's what you want to do. It reminds me of Matthew 7:6. Don't give what is holy to dogs or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under their feet, turn, and tear you to pieces. Now, am I taking that scripture out of context? Yes, I get it. let me just be clear with that. However, there's something really important to remember here. People who are toxic for you are not your project to try to change, unless the Lord makes it very clear that this is your project to try to change them. It's 99.99999% of the time just a recipe for hurt and heartache to try to change these people. Here's what you need to know about dealing with toxic people. Don't share your deep thoughts. Don't throw your pearls before swine. Don't give them anything to use against you. Keep it real only with those you truly trust. Save your best for the people who deserve it, for the people who have earned the right to be in your inner circle, not the people who have hurt you, who continually hurt you, or who are toxic for you. You want to protect yourself from those people. Okay, now recommendations. I'm super excited about recommendations. What do I drink all day? I talked about this a little bit in Remaining You While Raising Them. I drink decaf green tea all day long, maybe 6 to 10 cups a day, if I'm honest. There's all sorts of great health benefits. You can Google it. You can look it up if you're interested. But I am on the green tea train. I've probably been drinking tea like this for 5 or 6 years. Really fantastic. One thing that I do is I will mix in other tea flavors with it. I want to always have green tea for the health benefits, but I'll mix in other teas that I want to kind of punch up the flavor. This is the tea I want to tell you about. Bigelow Perfect Peach. If you're watching the YouTube channel, you can see it right now. I love this so much. It is like eating a peach. There's no caffeine in it. There's no calories. It's wonderful sweet. I drink it hot. I drink it iced. It's hard to find. I literally have a subscription on Amazon where I get a case of 6 boxes every month. I love it so much. I took it with me. I took all my interns on a retreat in January, and I was like, all my tea drinkers, come check out the world's most perfect fruit tea. It's amazing. But like I said, I add it to the green tea because I want the health benefits of the green tea too. So I just put 2 tea bags in that tea, and I probably drink one every day. It's really delicious. Another thing that I found that I love, holding this up for everyone on YouTube who can see it, it is the Belief Moisturizing Eye Balm. I got this, I think, in an Ipsy bag, and it is amazing. You know I love Aquaphor, and I put Aquaphor under my eyes. But you can see in here, it's just a little tiny bit, and a little bitty, teeny tiny bit is all you need. They say that their clinical research proves that it gives 26 hours of moisture and boosts the elasticity and resilience of the skin around their eyes. I don't know who doesn't need a boost in the elasticity and resilience of skin around their eyes, but I love this stuff. I put it on in the mornings before I put on makeup. It helps protect the under eye area from getting a little cakey from concealer. Not that any of us know anything about that, right? We're here to be honest. Okay, speaking of being here, I'm so glad that you're here. I love that we have this time together every week to invest in ourselves. I'm investing just by having these great conversations and learning new things so I get to share with you in coaching time. You're investing by joining me in this. Thank you. Thank you for investing in yourself because your spiritual health, your emotional health, the health of your work, it benefits everyone in your life. I believe in what's inside of you. I know what kind of person you are because you're watching and you're listening to this show. God has put something in you and you're doing great things in this world. Sometimes you're doing things in this world that other people know about, but oftentimes you're doing things in this world that's just between you and God. But you're making this world a better place, and I'm grateful that you're in it. That's why you're here every week. You're learning something new, something that's going to help you be healthier, something that's going to help you live the life that God has for you, and just making those steps every day. God has created you to stand strong and bring something special and unique to this world that only you can bring. So keep stepping up, keep showing up, keep loving well, because you know the truth. You cannot break a woman who gets her strength from God. And I love to get to coach and equip you every week. I'll be back with you next Monday, and I hope you have a great day. People who are toxic now, and give me a second. That's great. Let me press stop. We did it. I don't think I even had any bloopers. Not bad.